When you talk to me about my favourite genres, fantasy epics have never really been at the top of my list. It wasn't until I heard the buzz around Game of Thrones, watched them all until season 3 at the time, and then fucking adored it, that I then decided to step into watching The Lord of the Rings a few years later and actually show some interest in the subject matter. I don't know why. Wizards, magic, swords and shields, dragons, castles, for whatever reason it never really interested me. And despite the buzz behind Dark Souls, I never sunk my teeth into it until last year after giving Dark Souls 3 a go and loving that game. But oh man, when I did, wasn't I a fucking fool, because Dark Souls isn't just a fantasy and it isn't just an epic. It's an all-encompassing and bloody horrifying take on the genre cliches you come to expect, all wrapped around some of the most suspenseful, engaging and emotionally ripping gameplay I've ever experienced. It's so amazing to a point of me not being able to describe fully every single aspect on what makes it one of my favourite games in this video. It would require so much dissection and analysis we'd be here all day. But to keep it relatively brief, Dark Souls sees you controlling a chosen undead, who is whatever you want to be, with the immensely deep RPG elements for magic casting, heavy strength or dexterous melee-based characters. And you are a chosen undead who must attempt to ring, initially, one bell. That is your quest to start with. And you don't even question the importance of that, as you are practically rotting in a dungeon cell as you begin the game, and then are let out by one of the only friendly people in the entire story. Your quest, if anything, upholds and respects the wishes of the man who freed you. Then what started off as one bell becomes two, and what started as a favor becomes a journey to forever kill the Lord of the Realm and decide the fate of the entire world. Your character in this whole thing overall is nothing but a pawn, an exploited, manipulated and baited pawn, who in the grand scheme of things means absolutely nothing. The game likes to make you feel absolutely fucking insignificant, but it's the incredible world building, lore clues in every single inch of the stunning locations and monumentally amazing bosses and extremely lucrative NPC quest lines and how they all fit into the story that make Dark Souls. You get an intro clip, a couple of 20-second cutscenes to show something moving or a boss appearing, and an ending, and that's it. The rest of the story and how everything here begs to be fitted together is all up to you, and you can make a start by reading every single item description of everything you pick up. It doesn't sound very interesting, but you'll be gripped. And that's already compelling enough, and everything the game presents you with is interesting and twisted enough that you do care on how it all works together, especially when you come across certain boss encounters that provide unbelievable emotional depth from no dialogue at all, and even behave slightly differently depending on if you discovered particular locations and defeated other bosses in the world. I know everyone talks about the boss characters Artorias and Sif for this comparison, and I honestly don't blame them. Not to go into too much spoiling detail, but I welled up at this boss, and the DLC that further expanded on why this seemingly docile giant wolf attacked you and what his true intentions are after what his master from the past had to endure makes it all the more upsetting. And for the truly devoted, following another character in the distance from the DLC to a secret area where you can see Sif from the past protected from the abyss by his master's shield that he couldn't carry anymore because of a broken arm. Fucking hell, with no dialogue, no explanation, that is so fucking detailed, it's depressing how some other games even pretend to have deep and interesting lore. Not that there isn't any dialogue, there are a handful of characters to interact with in the bleak and deathly world, and you feel a strange blanket of serenity whenever you meet them, even if more than half are not friendly and every single one of them ends sentences in demonic and insane laughter. It's depressing and empty, yet parades in grandness and detail, and it features many archetypal medieval things in it, but with some of the most alien and downright terrifying enemies with their behaviors and visual designs I've ever seen in any game. And every single fantastically hinted at and hidden secret you uncover, optional boss, main boss, insanely powerful gear that you upgrade through your journey never makes the game any less surprising or ingenious. Oh yes, and the gameplay is awesome, not just from how it allows you to freely discover the world and its content entirely at your own direction and pace, and it even trusts you to know which areas you are strong enough to explore at the very beginning of the game, but also from the bloodthirsty and vicious combat system that can end your game in seconds if you aren't constantly on the ball, on time with your dodging and countering, and knowledgeable with enemy weaknesses whether you go for melee, ranged or magic builds. You need to be an effective crowd controller and know how to use the environments to your advantage, and you need to constantly monitor your stamina and not get too greedy on your offense. You need to know which enemies are even worth fighting in the first place, and if the rewards they drop are worth it. And of course you need to think about where to sink your rewards into without getting greedy again and losing all of your currency after death, forcing you to trudge through all of where you searched through again just for one last attempt to reclaim what currency you had before at the point you died at. My god, talk about non-beginner friendly, but also richly rewarding as a result. It's a game that requires you needing to give it as much as you can in order to get the most back from it, and if I could be honest, it's worth it alone just to hear what more of the bombastically brooding score has to give you. I know Demon's Souls did a lot of this stuff before it, and I do love that game also, but the level of charm, tension, horrifying designs and plot details, visual fidelity, character, and hauntingly unforgettable moments in the amazing open world are leagues above what Demons had established. And if you hear other people talk about how fucking fantastic Dark Souls is, there's a reason. Give it a go. Today's Pixel Empire deal in the description below is one that's still relative to the fantasy theme of Dark Souls. This Fantasy Time shirt. Look at it. Like I said, I'm not a Final Fantasy guy, but I very much love this because the show of Adventure Time is awesome. And put them together, you get that. And for a further discount, the coupon code CADDY does still work on top of the original deal today. So how much better could it be? And until tomorrow, stay tuned and stay beautiful.